Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Welcome to another Friday night bee chat. Hey Todd and Phil and Jack and Nanette and Mike and Kimberly and everybody. I will, as soon as I get set up here a little bit, get the link in and all that. All right. Finally got it. Hey Richard. Hey Randy. And the link is up at the top. Hey Darren. Hey Darren, pop in tonight. I'd like to talk to you about your insulation boards that you made out of your quilt boards. I think it's what it was, where you put insulation in. Hey Russell. Philip. Hey Dan. Hey Dan. Keith. So anyway, link is up. Everybody's can come on in. Things have been pretty decent here lately. Today has been a little bit humid. Not too bad though. All right, that's cool, Darren. Um, and so I guess let's see. Saturday and Sunday, I took my hey, Pastor Larry, took my Formic Pro strips off after 2 weeks. Did notice quite a bit of a mite drop on some of the hives on the IPM boards or coroplast boards underneath the screen and bottom boards. Some of them had a lot, some of them had hardly anything. I started, hey Matt, and started Monday mixing sugar, 40-gallon batches. Did that Monday and Tuesday. And thanks, Philip. And I got 80 gallons of fluid or 2-to-1 sugar syrup, and one in the tank, one in the mixing unit. Put the Apis Biologic in it, of course, rocket fuel. And yesterday evening, I went out there and put on the top hive feeders on all the hives that you see behind me, along with the ones of the nukes that I had, and filled them all at the same time. I was not able to get after this evening. It was just too busy to check and see how much they had taken it down. But we'll do that tomorrow. And then I also have another 40-gallon batch to put in the tank out there to fill them up if they need filling up, which I'm sure they do. The honey flow for me here was the late honey flow that you normally, that after I take my honey supers off, was pretty strong. Normally I don't get that much in July. They've got their hives, the top super's pretty much full of honey and it's capped, a good portion of it, especially the nukes. Not sure whether they're going to take a lot of syrup and everything. The goldenrods have, full bloom right now for the last week or so. I also, while I was taking the Formic Pro strips off, I was checking brood, and I didn't really worry about checking for hey, Tom, hope you're feeling good. All right, the knee's doing well. He's hanging out at the mother-in-law's condo. I guess that's on the beach, maybe. And so anyway, I checked the brood frames. I've got brooded pretty much in all 3 stages. A lot of nice larvae looking stuff, older larvae getting ready to be capped. Some eggs, some, hey, Vincent, some hives were stronger with lots more brood than other hives. I get, I kind of, hey, Russell, and I think that that's due to the queen. Some queens are more up and running, stronger than others and that kind of stuff. And so it's, hey, Tim and Hannah, we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully. And then I do know there's not much food out there because as soon as I put the top hive feeders on, you can kind of see some robbers out there they were sniffing for the sugar water. Hey, Matt. And also on my pickup truck where I spilled a little bit of sugar water, they were all over it this morning there, sucking it up and licking it up and all that kind of stuff. So Matt, he's out on truck drive and delivering hamburgers and hot hamburgers to McDonald's. So that's what's happening with me. Hopefully, and it's supposed to be kind of in the 80s today and through the weekend. We're supposed to get some rain, I hope. We are so dry here and all that. And let's see who else. Like I say, they were robbing a little bit there, but they were trying to get into the hives is what they were trying to do. They were smelling it, but they couldn't figure out how to get in there. So that's what's happening here at my area. I did find a nuke that I don't know whether the queen died or whether when we were doing our National Honey Bee Survey that I missed a queen and we washed her maybe. There is queen cells in that hive. We still have drones. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a chance to see there were cap queen cells. See if they can get themselves another queen themselves. I did not put a feeder on that hive, and they had a deep and a medium worth of honey. So I'm sure they have plenty of honey. If they don't make it, it's no sense in me spending money on them, feeding them and all that. And that's about it that I can tell you for what I've been doing, other than the fact I've been working every day and all. Anybody else would like to come on in about this time? I know some different folks are getting ready to come in. I know Todd, he's going to be going out to his bee yard and checking feed, see if he needs to feed tomorrow and all that. I'll be checking my hives tomorrow. Try to do a video tomorrow for everybody talking about apis and feeding and all that. Just reading the comments here. And then Roy here. He said, goldenrod's about done. He's in North Michigan, and large cap brood frame. And Todd, he's done checking beehives. Now he's going home. Russell, is the sawmill? Yeah, wants to know if my sawmill's busy. Well, some weeks we don't have a whole lot to do, and then all of a sudden a few orders will come in. Here recently we had 2 or 3 different companies call us up. Main thing we've been doing in my dry lumber area is we've been planing up a lot of inventory, putting it on the shelf so people can have a chance to look at it so they'll buy something. Gunline says, you're all going to get the cold temps in the country. Well, not around here too much. It ain't got hot or cold. Our biggest thing is we've been trying to get some rain here, and it has rained some. We did have a little bit of rain here, but we're talking a quarter of an inch of rain. It's like nothing. We need a nice, steady 2 or 3 day rain. The ground is like cement right now. In the field behind me up there on the top of the picture, my son wants to plant that into hay, grass, and it's just so darn dry. And I don't know when they're ever going to get, they're going to try to no-till it. And I just don't think they're going to be able to pop it into the ground. So some folks here are close by. They have better fall flows than I do. They got some of that knotweed and things like that. They're still having hives, or bringing in honey, but which is really good. I mean, it's good fall honey. Let the bees have it. You don't have to feed it. I would say Bob, he's probably sleeping right now, getting ready to go to work 2 o'clock in the morning. So he won't be on tonight. Yeah, what else we got going on here? Matt's got a question here. In a double deep 8 frame, if they have the top deep full of honey, but the bottom box is empty, is that enough for winter? Well, Matt, is the bottom box full of brood and whatever? My kind of rule of thumb is the hives behind me there are 3 mediums. The top medium is full of honey. I'm still going to feed them. I think that a lot of people what would you say, go into winter with a false security, and I feed them until they stop taking it and all. But you don't want to feed them too hard and fast, depending where you're located, because you want them to brood and pollen in the bottom. Matt says, okay. I'd put a feeder on them, see what they take, and all. I know I always feed in the fall at this time. Hey, Tom and Melissa. And well, we need a location. Well, Tom, why don't you take and find us a location out there? Some place that's decent that we can get 40 or 50 people in. And that was fun last year when we got out there on a Wednesday evening prior to the show with Ricky and everybody. There's Chris. You there, Chris? Can you hear me? Nope, I guess not. Dinner and show. Well, we're not going to have a show. We're just going to have a good we're just going to get together and have fun and talk and get something good to eat, hopefully. Hard to find places out that way. I don't know much about them in the area myself. Hmm. So actually, how many people on here tonight are going to Nobby in 2025? I am. I know Tom and Melissa are. The dance stuff. Nah, I don't think so. Nah, I do like to dance though. Tom's going. That's cool. He's not too far away. And Keith's going to be there. And Roy's going to be there. And Randy, Tar Heel, Pastor Larry's going to be there. That's good. Vince is going to be there. Going to be a lot of us there. Matt's going to be there. Matt, just drive the McDonald's tractor and trailer on over there and say you're delivering to a McDonald's close by. On the first, okay. Around noonish. I think I'll probably be there by the evening. I'm leaving, I think, on the first. Big Mike's going to be there. That's cool. Well, Kim, you could just tell him that you're going to buy him a birthday present there at the bee show. Tell him you'll take him down to the Louisville Slugger Bat Factory, and he can buy a bat. All right, DC's talking about it's the honey. It's too wet; it'll fermentate. Yeah, well, I went to actually Kimberly. We stopped into the Louisville Slugger. It's right on I'll call it Main Street, and right in downtown Louisville. It's not that far from the convention center, a couple miles. Parking's pretty decent to get. There's a parking lot close by that you can walk right into the place. I spent at least a couple hours there. They show you how they build or manufacture the bats with computer controlled lays. They got different billets of bats, ash bats, maple bats, um, different types of wood. And they actually have a museum there with bat or baseball history and stuff like that. You get a free bat when you get through the tour. I mean, they show you making the bat all the way down to finishing the bat with a lacquer or whatever they put on it, along with the stickers and things of that nature, along with the bats that they are personally manufactured, I'll say, for the pro football or pro baseball players, whoever they might have. And what else they have there? Then they have the machines there that show where they're making bats for, let's say, Dick's Sporting Goods and places like that. And you have a gift shop. And like I say, history. And then they have a thing where they have a batter's box where you can, I think it's cost you a couple extra bucks so you can hit, it's kind of like being at the carnival where you can hit the ball and all that stuff. Hey, Dan. So that might be something interesting for him. Here comes Philip, hopefully. Device is not connected. There he is.
Hey.
Hey. Thanks for coming in and saving me. Couldn't think of anything else to say.
Uh-oh, I got to mute. Let me just kill it. All right. I still had the YouTube running. Oh, man. I don't know if I'm saving you. I'm throwing you a life raft, but I don't know. We might both go down. Who knows? Who cares?
How's everything in Texas? Hot and dry?
Hot and dry. Hot, flat, and ugly.
Yeah, kind of like right here. It's dry. It's not too hot most of the week. Been pretty reasonably warm. Not too overly hot. Today was a little more humid. Supposed to get some rain in the next few days. How much? Who knows? Probably not enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been getting back up into. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And all that's about it for me. I mean, grass is still green here and stuff like that. But all that DC is talking about shims here.
Yeah, it's hot here again. It's up to the mid 90s.
So I was on a chat prior to mine. And there's a guy named Michael on there. He's from Oklahoma. He was at the bee yard out there, and it was 100 degrees there today. Ooh. So they were talking mite treatments, and he uses in the summertime Apivar because of the heat. In the springtime, it's Formic Pro because it's about 70 degrees. I'll say late March, early April, and all that. Now, I was trying to ask him about like April Guard. Doesn't seem like they have. And then in wintertime, they actually have, really cold weather there too in December and January.
Yeah. Oklahoma has crazy weather. It's like tornadoes and stuff come through there. And they even have some like small earthquakes. It's crazy. But yeah, we need rain. We got a little bit of rain up here about a week ago. But we haven't had rain down at the farm for probably over a month, about a month. But I'm thinking about going down there on Sunday and just throwing my honey supers on. Not because I expect to get anything, but I had a lot of wax moth damage, and I'm hoping the bees will help me clean it up a little bit, so it won't be so bad next spring. But
will they use storm with anything as far as like putting?
Yeah, I storm with paramoth, but and if it happened to the ones out there, I would, and it might have happened to those out there, but it happened to my colonies right outside my door. I walk by every day. I just didn't go back and refresh them, and it only takes a couple of weeks if they get in there, and it's a mess. I got in and cleaned out the ones that I left here, and all I got out of it, I got probably about 40% of my comb got destroyed, and it maybe more than that, but that was stored. I had some of it that was still on the bees, so they protected some of it. But yeah, if anybody tells you they won't eat stuff that hadn't had brood in it or pollen, don't believe them. They will. They'll eat all of it. They go to the brood and pollen areas first, but once they run through that, they just keep going. They don't stop.
Happened, Todd.
Hey, Charlie. Hey, Philip.
Do you need to feed tomorrow?
I've got them right where I want them. So I finally have the upper hand. And what I'm going to do is put a round of the Appy tablets on. And 30 days later, go back and do another round. And then I'll feed them some more after that. So what's that? The end of October. Before Halloween, which I'm right back on track. So
will they take that Appy tablet in 30 days?
Most of it, yeah, they'll keep gnawing on it. It's ideally supposed to be on there at least 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And there's nothing out there right now for them to get. So that's what I mean by I've got them right where I want them.
Right.
So if they want to eat, it's because I'm feeding them. So I'll give them the tablets and then start feeding again and then get them happy for winter. And that'll be that.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening down at the farm. It's just, it's about 80 miles apart, I guess, as the bee flies, but it's totally different down there. You never can tell.
Yeah.
But up here, I just put out, I had a strainer that I was pouring honey through to get ready to bottle. And I also had an empty 5-gallon bucket that had some honey residue in it. I put those out this morning and the bees didn't even touch them all day long.
There you go, Todd.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to answer. Yes, I do. I'm shipping. I'll mention this right now. So as you guys know, I have Appy tablets too. Bob does as well. We all know that. I don't want to take any of Bob's past customers. As a matter of fact, it might be easier or cheaper if you live on the East Coast to get them from him than it would be for me because of shipping. But if you're on the West Coast, the Western U.S., if you want some Appy tablets, they're available. So
west of the Mississippi, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean that's probably the easiest. But you know what? The same rule applies. Like I know Brian bought some from Bob, and he's in Colorado. So please don't ask me. I don't want to take any of Bob's customers. Not at all. I mean, even if you bought something else that didn't buy the A-tabs, just stay with him. Any new people that want to buy Appy tablets, that's all I have to sell on my beautiful website right now. But
I see that on your title there. Is that
I changed it. Yeah.
LomaVistaBeeCompany.com.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a whole pallet in the garage. I went to a bee club meeting last night, the local one here, the Central Valley Bee Club or Beekeeper Association, and I sold 10 or 12 sleeves. I had a talk with some people there. They've actually some have heard about it. So, yeah.
Nice.
It's picking up. I think it's starting to get some motion with it, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm going to pull my Appy tablets off of the ones out in the country and put honey supers on. Then I'll put them back on in a month, probably.
Yeah. So when you do that, put them in the freezer. And anybody that buys the package, if you only use like 5 out of the 10 or 4, whatever it is, put those in a 1-gallon Ziploc baggie. The whole sleeve will fit into the baggie diagonally. Zip it up, throw it in the freezer. Is the best way to keep it.
Well, I know that I just got some from Bob this week, but the first ones I bought a sleeve at Nobby just to try them out, see what I thought, and I kept those in my refrigerator since January until a month ago probably, but they were fine. I mean, they put them on and they worked. The bees started chewing on them right away. Yeah, and they still smelled really strong.
Yeah, I think as long as you keep them cold, chilled, frozen. I mean, it's sugar, so it doesn't really freeze. But you keep as long as they don't get hot, they won't give them a chance to even think about trying to gas off or anything like that. So. Oh, anyway, and you guys were talking about rain, and the reason why I had to feed is my area in Central California. Our version of the goldenrod is the blue curl, which I've said before. It comes up out of the ground probably around the 4th of July, but it doesn't really bloom or get really going until the second week of August. I didn't do it this year because it was so hot. And the 115-degree days just sucked the moisture right out of the ground. The plant came up but didn't want to push any buds because there was no water. So then as it started cooling down, it started blooming again. And I'm like, what in the world? I put feed on, and I said, oh, I can't wait for this, I can't wait any longer. I got to feed them. And then when I put feed on, it decides to start blooming again. So now it looks like it's waning. I don't know what's going on, but I have to feed. So there's not a whole bunch of it this year. So they're kind of taking more of the feed than that, because when I open a lid, I could smell it. It has a distinct odor. And then it rained yesterday morning. I'm laying in bed. I was asleep, minding my own business. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a clap of thunder shook the house, and it woke me up. And I listened to it rumble the whole rest of the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep for some reason, but it poured at like 6 o'clock in the morning for a good half an hour. And so I don't know what the plant's going to do now. It'll probably bloom again. It usually dies off after the first frost, but who knows? Who knows? So I have to do what I have to do. And
Todd, you see this?
no. Oh, yes. I know that was a problem. So I'm now using pirate chip. So everything should be okie dokie. And sorry about that, Jack. Or Danae. I don't know who wrote that. I'll just say JD. But anyway, that's all I know. It's hot. It's going to be 100 degrees on Monday and Tuesday, so the heat will go east. So expect it next weekend. Probably it'll get warm. For Philip, it might be near the end of the week.
I think it's supposed to be a little bit cooler on Monday here. I think it's below 90, or right at 90.
Yeah, and we have one more couple of days of hot weather, and then that's it. It'll settle down. So Danae says it's still saying that right now. I will have to call my IT department, aka my daughter, and let her figure it out. I thought it was fixed. Shoot, that sucks. I don't like that one. What's that?
I'm gonna see if I can get in there.
Man, that really sucks if it's not doing it.
Yeah.
Really?
I've got market tomorrow, so been getting ready for that a little bit. And my oldest son has said he's going to help me, so that'll be nice.
Sweet. It's always good to get free labor, right?
Well, it's not free. It's not expensive, though. Let's put it that way. My daughter, I told him I'll give you exactly what I gave my daughter to start. But she got to where she was so good at it, and she was also helping me get stuff ready and helping me with candles and stuff, that I actually started giving her just 10% of whatever I made. She came out pretty good on some weekends.
Yeah, I think my daughter wants to start doing lip balm and lotion bars and stuff like that. So
yeah, do it.
She asked me if I had some extra wax. I said, oh, yeah, I'll make sure I've got some more for you.
You can make a bunch of lip balm with a very little wax. It
Yeah.
doesn't take much. I do one part lip balm. I mean, 1 part wax to 3 parts coconut oil, and it
Yeah.
comes out really good consistency.
She's got some sort of recipe she found, so I'll have to go over it with her, but she wants to do it.
I put that, and I put a little vitamin E oil in it to act as a little bit of a preservative.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, muted me. I was selling some honey, and they were looking at the lip balm, and this lady comes walking up from the side and says, she leaned over and she goes, "I bought some of that lip balm. That's the best lip balm I've ever had." And I just looked over at her and I said, "Could you just stand there and tell everybody that for me?"
What's the difference between yours and the rest of the folks out there? Just
I don't know. I mean, mine only has 3 ingredients, so unless I have I do have peppermint, which I put about I put I usually do a double. I do a double recipe. I do one ounce of wax, 3 ounces of coconut oil, and a 1/4 teaspoon of vitamin E oil, and then in that I'll put about 9 drops of peppermint essential oil for the flavored kind, and I just add it, right before I put it in the things, and that's the thing I sell on, Todd, is because people always want to know what's in it. And I said, it's only got 3 ingredients, and here they are on the tube. And they really like that. They like that. Don't have all that weird chemical stuff that you see on everything else.
Yeah.
Crosshair, he's got spending honey at 13.5%. Is it actually coming out of the comb at that dry?
Yeah, that's pretty dry.
That's tough. That's tough going there.
That'll break your teeth.
That's really dry.
Philip, didn't you say the other night you use Pirate Ship?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So do you have to, as far as the shipping, does Pirate Ship do that automatically, or do you have to guesstimate shipping to get the ball rolling as far as shipping?
Well, I haven't tried to. I mean, you're probably wanting to know what it's going to be before you, so you can.
Correct. Yeah.
In my case, it's it's always a done deal. I'm going to pay whatever they ask. They quote it, and then they give you the competing quote from either whoever you pick, the post office or. And I know I like to use UPS. I just trust them a little more, even if I have to pay a couple of dollars more. But the other day I sent something to Tim and Hannah, and it was like $6 and something for the postal service, and then it was like $8 and something for the UPS. But so I picked UPS. Well, then it added another $2 to it because UPS has to hand it off to the post office. They don't go all the way out to Tim and Hannah's house. It still wasn't that big a deal. And so the post office ended up with the package no matter what.
So if someone goes to your website and goes to the checkout, do they not see?
Well, oh yeah, I don't ship. I don't sell.
Oh, you don't ship. Okay.
Stuff on my website.
I
need to. I say I need to, but that would just be something else for me to have to deal with.
Yeah. I'll have to ask Bob. I'll have to ask Bob on his day off. See what's what.
I keep wanting one of my kids to take some interest in that part of it, and then pay them like 25% of whatever they sell on a website, because I don't want to have to deal with it. And that's what I give up. I have one right now, but I'm trying to get another retailer, and I pay them 25% of what stuff sells for.
Yeah.
The Pirate Ship, what is it? A middleman type of thing? It actually ship or what?
They get shipping rates from UPS and the post office, and it's hard to explain, but they're kind of a middleman. It's a free service. You can print the label out. They print it out. The UPS code or the barcode is on there and everything. So You go to the post office and pay it, and that's it. Or you go to UPS and pay it, and that's it. Whatever scans on the barcode. But you could pick, you know, do you want it there the next day? Do you want, you know, there's all kinds of options. Same thing as going to the UPS store or post office.
Yeah, but it's a lot less expensive though. I mean,
It's-
at least
really
about 30%. It's at least 30% cheaper than, and sometimes it's even more than that. Of just walking in to.
Chris wants to know, beekeepers storing honey in bottling tanks or jarred and warmer from darkening, what do customers say? Well, I think, honey in general will darken over time.
Right.
And then, I have a bottling tank, but it, like right now it starts, it'll shut the heater off at 94 degrees, 93, 94, something like that. And I think the main thing is if you get it higher towards 100, that's when you're going to see a faster, darkening.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They would darken more.
I don't know. People come to my place and get honey, and they just like the taste of it, and they'll say, some of them will say it's a little darker this year. I said, yeah, it's because it washed the locust bloom out, but the poplar bloom was right behind it. And poplars got more of a, they say if you hold it up to the light, it's kind of like a ruby red tint to it.
Yeah.
And
so,
they buy it and go on with it. They don't seem to have any problem with it.
Well, my Capel spring honey was darker this year than it was last year, significantly. And
just tell them, this is nature.
Matter of fact, I have to kind of hold it up to the light sometime to tell the difference between it and the fall honey. But I will tell you that I harvested it 2 different times, about 3 weeks apart maybe. And the first batch came out was a lot lighter than the later batch, like it mostly is. But when I had a little bit of both, because I don't mix them together, people really I don't know, 4 out of 5 people like the darker second honey that I did. It just had a deeper flavor to it. So they preferred it, side by side, tasting it. And right now we're getting into the time of year where everybody wants the fall honey. I only got 10 jars of that left from last year, and I'll get more in November. But people's tastes change in the fall to wanting the fall honey rather than the spring honey. And it's really dark. It's crazy dark.
It's more like a buckwheat, I guess, like motor oil.
People say it reminds them of molasses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just tell, people, if they talk about the color, I said, every year is different. Depends on what the bees get into, the way the weather systems are. I really like the really light looking honey, but I tasted it, what I got this year from my own hive, and I said, all tastes good to me. So, and that was interesting this week because I had a lady stop in for the first time, bought a 2-pound bottle. She wanted local honey. And somebody else, where she is, told her to come and see me. And she happened to, there was a store called Dave's Natural Foods. And she had this store. She was the owner of it. And then she sold it to this guy, Dave, who had multiple stores. And they sell natural foods and stuff. And it was kind of interesting that she winds up coming to me, after she quit the store and everything else. Interesting. But I don't know. You just have to kind of, educate people that, every year is different. And depending on what the floral service, that the bees are getting into. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I that's my whole sales pitch. And that's what messes me up when I run out is I let them try 3 different types, 2 different springs and 1 fall, and they all taste different. And then we can talk about it. And I tell people it's, if if you're a couple, I expect you to disagree because, and they'll sit there and, try and decide which bottle they want to buy. So to me, that's the fun of it. You shouldn't all taste the same.
Yeah.
Well, Roy, I mean, about planting the buckwheat, I don't know. Some people like buckwheat. It's really dark, and it's got as Lee would say, a robust flavor.
I want to taste that. I want to try that because I don't think I've ever had any buckwheat.
And all.
I think there's
You'll
any
know
around.
it when you try it.
Oh, well,
Yeah, you will.
I don't like it myself.
my
I
fall
like
honey.
now Lee likes he was telling that he likes a robust
darker.
flavor where his
Yeah.
wife likes a more sweet tasting honey. And that's more what I like is a sweet tasting honey.
Yeah, that's what I find is people, will taste it and they taste that fall honey. I save it for last because it's got the strongest taste and I don't want it to override their taste buds. But the people that like that tend to like dark beer and dark coffee and those
Strong
kind of
coffee,
things.
whatever.
Strong coffee,
Now, Matt here, you sold it and you got repeat customers. And that's the thing,
Yep.
that's the big thing for me is the same principle and everybody else that whether you're at a market or whether they come to your house or wherever you sell it at, once they find that they like what you have, a good product, it sells itself.
Yeah.
And Matt's going to have to probably expand his amount of bees in order to keep up because that's exactly what I did this year. I sold 1,100 pounds last year. Had to buy some from some friends of mine. I'm very particular on that, where I get it and what type it is. So I knew I wanted to expand to 14 hives from 12. And then I had all those catastrophes, with the queens and all that stuff this springtime. And I said, we're going to go to 16 hives so I can estimate that I'll have between 12 and 1,500 pounds of honey. And if everything goes well. Hey, Lynn. And so that's why I did what I did because the honey sales have been boosting for me. And I just got kind of tired of selling nukes to everybody. And I want to really want to get into making my own queens this year and all that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Philip.
Well, I was going to say that, a lot of people get on YouTube and talk like they don't sell fall honey or don't like fall honey, so they don't sell it and all that. But I'm telling you, it's $5,000 in my pocket if I get what I think I'm going to get. So I don't really care if other people don't like it. I like it, and my cousin, I prefer it over the spring honey personally. But when people are trying it, about 25 to 30% of the people prefer the fall honey year round. And that's a significant amount of people.
Yeah, I don't really get a fall flow per se. Like a lot of people around here will say, "Oh, I get a goldenrod flow." They get the pollen out of it, but that's about it.
Yeah, I in 3 years I haven't gotten hardly anything down at the farm. I mean, literally like 20, 30 pounds. It's very little, but I've gotten 500 here the last couple of years.
Now, Greater Baltimore, which is Lynn, she's got some spots, probably half an hour from my house, maybe at the most. And I think it's knotweed. We were talking about it on our little meeting last night. And yeah, she's got Japanese knotweed.
I think I have some knotweed.
And well, I don't have any of that kind of stuff around me. And she's been the bees have been pulling honey in and all.
Yeah.
She's like, "What are you doing with all this stuff?" I said, "Well, it's either you kind of have to plan it out." The way I look about it, where take the fall flow and extract it and put it in buckets and sell it, and then October's right around the corner. To me, I feel like for our area or my area, you need to kind of like give some of that honey back to the hives, or make sure that you buy a significant amount of sugar and feed the heck out of them.
Yeah, that's my plan. Is if they need it, I'm going to feed them because I can get sugar. Even as expensive as sugar is, I can get a lot more of that than I can giving up the money for the honey.
Yeah, I mean, sugar's what, 50 cents a gallon or 60 cents?
Mine, yeah, it's more than that. Unless I'm not buying it in huge volumes, but I want to say I'm paying like 68, 70 cents something now.
Or still, if you're getting 10 pounds versus that change, you're still doing good. It's just the fact that you got to work to make all that sugar water if you're not set up for it.
Well, I'm definitely not set up for it. I have a theory that people like you, Charlie, that have the fancy rigs feed your bees more because it's easier.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you take a 5-gallon bucket and you fill it up half to three, let's say 3/4 the way, a lot of weight, pouring it in like that, it's killing my shoulders, and you'll spill it and everything.
Yeah.
Go to, the Tractor Supply with a pickup truck, get yourself a 40-gallon tank, 50-gallon tank with a pump on it. And I got it where I hook it right into my electrical system on the truck where the brake lights are and all that stuff. And just, pump it off there and just, turn the valve, turn the pump on, turn the valve open and pump it off, in about 30 seconds, the thing's full. Or, or if it's a 2-gallon pump, it might be about a minute and a half. So, it saves you a ton of physical labor. Hey, Nancy.
Yeah, I mean, what I do takes a long time, but luckily I haven't had to feed much. But I only feed, during the summer, I only feed like 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I won't feed 2 to 1 at all. I'll start feeding 1 to 1 when it starts to cool down a little bit. And that's all I'll feed them.
I haven't fed in 2 years because that blue curl came up, and that's some good honey for them. They'll eat it all up. But
you sent me a bottle of that. I thought that was great honey for selling.
Yeah. But it also crystallizes hard as a rock too. So I don't know. I don't know what was up with that, but I could hammer nails with those 6 jars I have left. It's that hard, plastic jars with rocks, with one big chunk of rock in it. It's
just put it in some warm water.
I did that. I put it in my honey warmer in the garage. Nothing worked. I cranked that refrigerator up to 100 and I think it was 125 degrees, and it still didn't do anything.
That's
Nothing.
crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know. But they work good for door stops or paperweights, or
maybe you could make some mead with it. You have to boil it.
Yeah, I'd probably have to boil it overnight. Yeah. You can, the way Melissa and Tom talk, I could sell it to Melissa for a couple bucks. It might, do some damage there, but.
Yeah, there. Nancy says, put it in the hive upside down. They'll eat it out.
Well, it won't even move. It's a rock.
Yeah, but they'll go up there and chew on it.
Well, that's true. Yeah, they would, but boy, it'd take a while to get through that stuff. That's like cement. I'm not kidding you. It's crazy. I've never had one like that. I've had it in years past. It's never done that. So I don't know what's what.
That is weird.
Yeah. See, Melissa thought that was funny. Unless that's Tom. What is so Charlie, when are you not gonna open hives anymore? What kind of timeline?
I'm pretty much done open hives.
So
And
that's
I mean, I have to say right now we're a week away from October and it's still in the 80s and stuff like that. And it's not that bad. They'll repropalize everything.
yeah.
I'll open them up here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, take the feeders off, kind of take a look at everything and all that. I mean, the Appy tablets are on. I put them on after I took the formic off, and we'll see how, they're on there till the next spring and see what they do.
Yeah.
And all that. I'll probably still do some vaporization.
Yeah.
And all that. I know that Nancy there, she was on the other chat with me, and she's been doing some oxalic acid vaporization, and she's had really low mite drops. And she's also done a Formic Pro hit here back in May, I think it was, or June.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do show and tell, but I gotta get some more light.
I see. It's either Tom or Melissa that's participating tonight. I'll have to guess because I'll never know which one it is. What's up, Mark? I need to call you. I got some news.
That's a good question, Mark. How much sugar does it take to put back a full depot 10 frame, which is cost versus, say, a 5-gallon bucket of honey? Well, 5-gallon bucket of honey, that's $600 retail.
Yeah. That would be what it would cost you if you sold it individually. But you could pick it up from, most guys anywhere, depending on what it is, 200 to 250, 275, something like that.
From a wholesaler.
Yeah.
You ain't going to pick it up from me for that.
No, me neither.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for me, I don't have to have a full deep. I mean, even if it's questionable whether I'd need even a full medium of honey. And we're not going to have a problem until over in March. I've got to be careful. If they're light, they can be light through the winter, but when we get to March and they start brooding up, that's when I better start feeding them, or I'm going to lose some of them if I don't.
Nancy says it's going to be 60 pounds of sugar, possibly.
I
don't know.
Let me look at my calculator.
So say that's 40, 50, say that's 50 to 50, $60 maybe. Not even that.
So,
well, I mean,
60 pounds.
Well, now, but the other thing is I'm guessing he's talking 2 to 1. Right? 1 to 1 or 2 to 1. I don't.
She said it was a guess. She thought it was having one of those contests where you're like sitting in the bar and you have to guess real fast. So I got a question for you guys. 2 years ago, I harvested a little bit of honey out in Richland, and I made a video because it was crystallized in the frames, and I had a devil of a time getting it out. I thought I was going to have about 70 pounds, and I think I ended up getting like 20 pounds out of it, maybe 25. And then I stirred it up and called it creamed honey. But this is, it's 2 years old now, but it's settled back to the bottom, and it's never crystallized anymore. And I put it in the refrigerator, and once it heats up, it turns back to this right here. And yeah, I can stir it up real nice and put it in the refrigerator, and it'll make a really nice creamed like honey as long as it's in the refrigerator. But it won't stay crystallized, even though it was impossible to look perfectly crystallized on the bottom. It's really good tasting though. But anyway, I called it creamed honey, but I've never sold it. I've given some of it away.
Is that black mark actually, is it mold or is it just creamed honey? It's turned that way.
That's the crystallized honey on the bottom.
Yeah, but what's that dark around there?
The dark, that's the honey.
That's just the honey that didn't
Yeah,
crystallize.
and it's
Oh,
also
okay.
it's got kind of a foam on the top of it too.
You know,
Oh gosh, look at that. It's got a sticking to the top there.
yeah.
Some of that creaminess is on the top as well, and some's in the bottom. Let me see. But the honey
Um,
itself, Charlie, is
the,
like super dark.
the
It's kinda hard to get.
crystallized, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking outside of the box here, but when there's nothing for the bees to get, they'll attack hummingbird feeders and drain that thing, and real quick. And then they'll go pick off another one somewhere else. And that's just sugar water that will crystallize like that. So I don't know.
What's it smell like, Nancy wants to know, Phil?
It's kind of it's kind of got a little bit of a molasses flavor and smell to it as well.
Mm.
Smells a little bit like like your hives do, dirty socks, people say.
Who knows? That might be a Brian question, though.
Yeah. Matt there, Morris, about leaving the apron bar strips on. Yeah. That's what Minnesota Mike says is true. You really need to get them apple bar strips off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do not leave them on there because that creates resistance.
Yeah.
Which already we have now, I think.
Yeah, we do.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, what's up, Brad? I don't know. I don't know, Philip. Fake honey crystallizes, and it's fake honey is mainly sugar. A lot of sugar in there mixed with the little honey. It might be. It could be a sugar source that they got that. I don't know. Like I said, maybe they hit a hummingbird. I've had red. If you ever see red honey, 99 times out of 100, for me, it's a hummingbird feeder. They will
really.
They will gather it, they will store it, they will cap it, but they will never touch it again. They won't uncap it.
I don't think I could see where the bees here in Capel might have access to a hummingbird feeder, but I don't know where out there they would. But I mean, well, that's not exact. I mean, maybe fake honey does crystallize, but real honey crystallizes also.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that, like, if you go into a store, that's what you would see. Half the bottle is crystallized, the other half isn't, because
right.
It came from China via Vietnam or wherever it came from.
It's been stuff mixed together.
Yeah, it'll separate. But yeah. So my only thing with my bees are in a ranch area. And there's a lot of homes out there. They're on like 5 and 10 acre lots. And there's a lot of hummingbird feeders. As over the years, I've seen red honey. And what I'm worried about is the people that don't color their hummingbird feeder food. That's what I'm worried about. Because then it's funny honey, Maybe that's what happened with this blue curl. I don't know. But even sugar water like that would come out. It would melt down and liquefy again. So I have no idea.
I tell people here that they ask what's in there, and I say, well, it's whatever's blooming. But I said, but it could also be some root beer from down at the elementary school.
Yeah,
could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bees will work it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll get, when it's time for them to get something, they'll get it.
That's right. Well, they're fine. Like I said, I couldn't believe I put honey out, because the bees they're doing stuff like if I leave a light on, the porch light on, they'll be all over that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's just so many bees in the colony, they might as well do something. But I was shocked that they didn't mess with that stuff I put out there today. That means, and it's in a place where they expect me to put stuff out.
Yeah.
As far as what, sugar water or honey or something?
Well, I put out buckets that I just had honey residue in it, and then one of those strainers that I'd poured honey through, and they're usually all over it. But So I hope we're on a good fall flow.
I know for me, I mean, I fed and the little residue of, sugar water that got hit my bed, uh, they were all over it this morning trying to suck it dry. And then around the feeders, they could smell the feeders. They're flying around trying to get into the damn feeders and stuff and all that. Mike wants to know, did I do any cutting? Yeah, we've been sawing oak and poplar material here this week. Blocking for one of the companies and some bend boards for the cement company today. For Monday.
I thought Mike had said that Mr. Vincent had was selling off all of his milling equipment.
I don't know. Is that the guy that had the
It's the guy that
wood miser?
I think so.
I got one for sale on Marketplace, but I don't know. A lot of people talk, 4 or 5 of them looked at it and, how much, or not so much how much, but, I had some extensions for it and stuff like that. We would separate from the main sale. And then it's like, by the time they ship it, well, you got to figure that out before you even talk about it, with shipping. Yeah. One guy was up in New York State. And I'm thinking to myself, well, those extensions are only 6 foot 6 inches long. It's like, why don't you take a day trip and drive down and stick it in the back of your 8-foot bed pickup truck and take it on home, But I don't know.
I'm surprised you have a wood miser there with all that fancy equipment you have.
My brother bought it, I don't know, 25 years ago.
Is it one that's on a trailer or is it a fixed one?
But and all that.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm not more talkative than that. Work wore me out today.
Mm-hmm. I see. Is it Melanie Cruz? Yeah, on here. I met them on. Let's see, Ricky's channel. They're down there in Florida, or North Florida, I guess you would call it.
Right.
They got bees and stuff down that way.
They're on the Florida-Georgia line.
Yep. So, but I'm waiting for Darren to get back here. I'm going to talk about his insulated cover that he uses. We were talking about condensing hives on the meeting last night, and where no upper ventilation and put an insulation board up top, and not so much for like where you guys are at, as far as being, you don't get the cold weather, I don't think, but it would, gives the hive, I'll say, a heat dome in there, and the bees seem to like that better. Instead of letting the heat out, and also the insulation protects the surface from did I do a syrup pump? No, I didn't do a syrup pump. I made a mixing tank and all. The good thing I got it, the main thing I have, in order to go from the mixing tank to the pump or the tank in the truck, is I got a forklift, which most people don't have. Who was it? They were showing pumps. Was it on Bob's channel?
No. Well, yeah, it was. It was Joey, though. He showed a little pump.
Yeah, that's right. Joey, Tom and Melissa. Joey had a, I'll call it a submergible trash pump that it would pump the with the tank out, the 55-gallon drum, down. I think within an inch or two of the bottom of it. Now the
Yeah.
only
I wonder though what they mean, like putting a for feeding, like attaching it to the back of a flatbed, or just mixing, you
well,
know.
Tom and Melissa, they've got I've seen them in their other videos a year or so ago. They've got a tank on the back of his flatbed, like a tote, kind of like what Brad's got with a pump system.
Does it have a recirculating system on it?
I think it's got a recirculating system on it, and then he's got a hose reel with a gas nozzle on the end of it. He's pumping off stuff, kind of like what I do. I mean,
Yours doesn't recirculate, does it?
yeah, mine does, but mine's got a pressure switch on it. So as soon as I turn the valve off and the pressure goes up to about, I think 60 pounds or something like that, or 40 some pounds, motor stops. And it's the same thing that Jack up at New Jersey Beekeepers, Backyard Beekeepers. I got on he's got a video out, and he's got the same thing I have, pump and everything, but he didn't take off the sprayer nozzle because it's made for spraying pesticides or whatever. I cut the darn nozzle off and just put a pipe and a quarter turn valve, and with a little pipe out with a 90-degree elbow, and I use it that way. He's got actually a trigger. I think he took the nozzle off the end. Looks like to me it's spray, it's more under pressure, with what he has. And because it kind of makes how sugarwood will get that white frothy look to it if it gets all stirred up a lot of times, especially with pressure and all that. But that's what I have. It's a diaphragm pump. The downside of it is I can't make my sugarwater true 2-to-1. Mine's a little bit lighter than 2-to-1, which doesn't really make any difference, but it'll pump it just fine. And all. It's like this first batch, I had used a bag of my sugar, about half of it. So I put in, instead of 250 pounds, probably about 225 pounds in there. And you could tell that it was more watery acting, where normally when I put 250 pounds in there, it's more of a thick water, more like honey coming out, sort of thick.
It's more of a slosh than a splash.
Yeah.
Anybody ever been to the Great Salt Lake? That's what that does. That stuff sloshes. It doesn't splash.
I've never set foot in Utah.
And stinks too.
Mike's wants to know, adding any thymol or bleach. I'm not. I mean, I don't understand that part of it. People talk about, sugar water turning. And I'm like, well, when I feed my hives with a top hive feeder, you give them 6 or 8 hours, that stuff is gone. It's in the hive. Now, if you're going to let something sit around like in the springtime or the summertime, where I'll use quart jars or pint jars, and I'm feeding, let's say, a 2-frame mating nuke with a pint jar, and let's say those sugar water jars, which is more or less 2-to-1 or 1-to-1, is sitting in the house here, you'll start to get it, it'll be sitting there for a week or two, and then it starts getting cloudy looking with floaters in there.
Yeah. Put half a teaspoon of bleach per gallon.
Yeah.
Mix it up. Thymol, I don't know, but bleach, half a teaspoon.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
If you have room, you can stick it in the refrigerator. It'll keep it from turning.
Yeah.
If you have room for it.
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't really had to deal with it too much because I don't feed that much. I'll feed in the spring though. If I really want to get them going, I'll feed early in the spring. What's up, Darren?
Hey, Darren. How's it going?
Good to see you, Darren.
Hey, I have a question. Who has more glare in their glasses, me or Philip.
Hey,
I don't know how to get rid of it. Todd
don't know.
figured it
I
out.
don't know.
I-
Old man,
some days it works.
cheap
Some
reading
days,
glasses.
Yeah, it seemed
know.
like Philip and you both pretty glary.
We
Yeah.
we show up at the same eyeglass store, I guess.
Yeah.
Walmart.
Mine are like $1.50 because the dollar store don't sell them for $1 anymore.
No, I'll get that blue film on there. I bought glasses. These glasses are supposed to be anti-glare, but some nights I'll get that blue look, and that's glare to me in my book. So I got ripped off.
Not like this. This is
Yeah,
glare.
some
Yeah,
nights
you can see both computer screens.
Yeah. At work, it's the lighting for me. In here, it's different, but at work, it's like two big blue eyes. And when I'm on Zoom meetings and stuff, and sometimes I just turn my camera off. Says, the hell with it.
Via's telling us to spray paint our glasses flat black.
Well, it's
I'm
either
gonna
that or
interfere with the driving a little bit.
you could
That's always an option.
just do this, and then you don't have to worry about the glare.
There you
Like
go.
now, my glasses turn dark in the light. Is yours like that too, where they turn the sunglasses? Or not?
mine. No.
Like mine, you go outside and they'll blacken up, darken up.
Mine
So
only turns
Darren,
red.
I watched your videos when maybe it was last year or whatever. You had took a quilt box and put insulation in there, right?
Right.
I don't know. It seemed like to me that you took a box and you put 2-inch insulation, styrofoam insulation, up into where, or pushed it down into where the bottom of the box is. Let's say a piece of I don't know, 1/8 inch Luan or something like that on a frame
Right.
that fits the same size as a regular bee box. And then what do you got? About an inch and a half wind or air gap between that?
Here's what I got.
All right, you got a demonstration. Great.
This is actually the one that I made. This isn't one of my quilt boxes. The quilt boxes, you're right on that. Like all I did with the quilt box was I took it and I stuffed some, I think it was 3/4 inch foam insulation.
Now, Lynn, now listen up, because Lynn's got quilt boxes and she's starting to learn when you get more highs, all this extra crap
Right.
you don't want.
That's what happened. That's why I decided to go with this. So then, all right. So I had that quilt box, but then I made this. And
All right,
it's
how
just
thick
a
is
box.
those sides?
It's just
About 3 inches?
It's 3.5 inches, and it's
Okay.
what 3/4 inch thick, I think. Maybe
Yeah, 3/4 inch board, right?
And I took a router. I'm not
Let
like a wood,
me bring you up a little bit bigger. There we go.
I'm not
all right, there
I'm
you
not a
go.
woodworker like Philip is, but I took a router and I routed some grooves in there. I don't even know what.
Oh, all right, do you do a shiplap thing?
Is that what that is, Philip? A shiplap? So I don't even know what the joint's called.
That's a rabbit.
Well, I call it a rabbit.
Okay,
That's
so
Yeah,
rabbit.
rabbit. Yeah, that's a rabbit.
look
Okay,
at how
you're
clean
right.
that is. Oh, that could be. I could use this in some furniture. I should be a furniture maker, but
That's
that's
beautiful.
all I did, Charlie. This is 3.5 inches by 3/4, and then I believe this is only 3/4 of an inch insulation. And I wish I would have gone with more than that because I definitely have room for it. Right? You can see all this. There's plenty of room in it. And then I filled the gaps in because I didn't know I wasn't clever enough to actually fill in all the gaps when I cut this film insulation. So I didn't cut it very accurately. So I filled the gaps in with some of the spray foam insulation. But that's all I did. Now I got plenty of room in here. If I decide to put sugar in here, if I'm going to do fondant or appy tablets or whatever.
Now your box is the same size as your as the Hive box, so it sits up on the
Right.
other box. It doesn't
Right.
slip over.
Exactly. There's this. It sits like this, and so there's all this space is under there. So if I want to
All
put
right, now do you have any problems with your bees chewing on that stuff or boring into it? I've heard some problems with that.
They did. You see that right there? Where is that? Right there. The bees were on there. And
yeah, what's that? Where they chewed on it?
They were no, I can't even tell. I think they were just like on it, like they were just like resting on it. Some,
Right.
they weren't chewing through it. They were just resting on it. So when you brought this up in one of your videos or one of your live chats one time where somebody had picked up
yeah, that was Bill Heschbeck. He picked it up,
Okay,
and
Bill.
he was up in New Hampshire where I think about 4 pounds of bees dropped out into the snow.
Yeah.
And he was talking about where he would like to have a screen inner cover, and then you put that up on top or something of that nature. I think
Maybe.
is how he talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have like that. I had a small issue with bees up here, and I would just take it and just like tap it, like you would with your inner cover, and that would take care of that problem. But like,
But they're not chewing it.
I didn't have a major problem with this. And this mess right here is just from me probably just from me messing around. But the bees didn't chew through this. They were just on it and like milling around and clinging to it more or less. But my only thing that I wish I would have done differently is I wish I would have used a heavier or a thicker insulation, because like here in Pennsylvania, our weathers have been pretty mild for the past like 6 or 8 years. We haven't had a big time polar vortex come down through in a while, but we're about due for one. And sometimes those come through us below zero for like 3 weeks. So
yeah, Lynn, this goes on top of do you have an inner cover underneath of that, or is the frames?
No, I just put this on top and
of the frames.
Right. And then
all right, so you take your Lynn's
asking
some questions here. This box here that Darren has, take the inner cover off, you put that box on, and then you put the telecover on top of that.
Yeah.
Keep the weather off, and that's it.
And I do put the inner cover on top of this just for storage, but you don't need to have the inner cover on it. Like,
turn that around the other side, so you don't have actually any.
There's nothing there. It's just
nothing there. It's just
okay. The insulation. I fill the edges in with the spray foam.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, some people put like a 1/8 inch Luan or something like that.
Well, that I have that on my the mesh on my what used to be my quilt boxes, but then I just stapled it together. I didn't paint it. You can see, I mean, I should have painted them, but I was kind of like in a rush last year. So this year I'm going to build some more of these and paint them up. I might use a more of a thicker insulation, but works well. And that Hessback, he does a whole, that whole him with David Peck on Better Bee. Like if you haven't, if you're not familiar with these, if you're up here in the north and you don't want to use like the quote box or anything, if you want to learn more about the condensing hive, I suggest you watch that video. And he talks about how
Lynn here from Baltimore Beekeepers, she's actually contacted Bill Heschbeck to see if we can get him to talk.
Okay, that'd be great. He talks about how like this all started like from the Warray Hive. Is that how you pronounce it? Warray Hive. The quilt box was like the first version of this. He just didn't have this insulation, so the quilt box is what he came up with. And then, well,
I mean, they had quilt boxes, and i.e., they put quilts in there.
Right.
That was the only insulation they had back then.
Or they would put wool or something like that. Like,
yeah, wool in there, lamb's wool and stuff like that. But now we have Starfoam insulation will work as the same thing.
And he talks about how like we kind of screwed that quilt box up by cutting a notch in it to let the ventilation out. And he says all that did was like really like it let the cold air in. So that's why I don't even have a notch up here. I'm not venting the top. It worked out pretty well for me.
Condensing hive doesn't have any top ventilation.
Right.
You're actually creating a heat dome in your hive where the bees can get up to where the hot area is and stay there and keep warm.
Right. But that's what I do, and it works pretty well. And I'm, I'll probably try and improve on that somewhat over the next, year or two. But that was kind of like almost a game changer for me because, for me, I know a lot of people don't like that mountain camp method of feeding sugar, but that actually made a difference in my beekeeping. And then I moved on to like the quilt box, and then I never overwintered a hive successfully until I started doing the mountain camp, and then I did the quilt boxes. But now, like, it's evolved into this, this insulated inner cover.
Something we were talking about last night was that some folks like to feed through the winter, and they use sugar bricks. And with that, you have the insulation. You can open that up, stick your brick in there right on the frames, close it up, and it's room for your pollen patty. It's room for your sugar brick,
your appy tablets and whatever. So that's
tablets, whatever you want to stick up underneath there. Give yourself about an inch and a half room.
it just
and
makes things so much easier, like
Mhm.
like you said, like when you get into this, you want to have all these gadgets and everything, but then when you're into it long enough and you're starting to grow and you don't want to have all the gadgets and all this stuff, you want to simplify this. It's like almost like a commercial beekeeper. What's working for them, let's do what they're doing, and and that, because they got it figured out. So like for me, this is like probably like the simplest, easiest way I can just prepare for the winter.
Yeah, and I had now Russell here. He was talking about it where and I've seen this too, guys in my own club where they'll take a let's say an inch piece of styrofoam, 3/4 of an inch piece of styrofoam, put it right on top of the inner cover, cut out, make sure there's no notches or anything, and then put the telly on top of that. But I like what you do where it's more sealed, it's
And I do take, the blue painter's tape. I do seal it when I put this on top. I seal the seam with the painter's tape.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is when you put that on, if it's good and level and you put that on top of your hive, the bees will propolize it, and it's it's nice and tight,
Right. Yeah.
and all that.
But I like it. It works for me, and that's what I'll be sticking with that for a while.
Yeah. And it's like Mark here, he does shims, feed sugar bricks with Apis biologic mixed into the bricks and stuff and all that. It kind of depends where you're at. Like say, I mean, for years and years we're educated, ventilation. Now we're going to the opposite spectrum where we're not ventilating, and the moisture, the hot air with the moisture hits the ceiling and then goes down the sidewalls, and the sidewalls are cold, which will condense the water, which in turn the bees will use that to drink so they can liquefy the honey and stuff like that.
But I think Hesback, he's like really done a lot to kind of promote this condensing hive. And I don't even know how I don't know if you mentioned it or somehow I started using that a couple years ago, and it might have been Hesback, or maybe I just read it somewhere because it's been around for a long time. It's not something new. But
well, I think it's like, I'll say like appy tablets or something. It takes a while to get around. I'll say, in the beekeeping world, it's more to where it's more common knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I hear
like Vincent there, upper entrance ventilation works great for him. Well,
right.
That's fine. We're not saying that you got to do this, but now myself, I don't do it yet. I still have inner cover with some blocks, which I vent out, kind of have a slight ventilation out the top through the wintertime.
I would suggest, if you're going to try this, to just try it on a couple hives. That's how I did it. I tried it on one hive, and then it worked out. Those bees actually came out better than any of my other bees did. Then I tried it again, and the third year I actually kind of went all out on it and put it through my whole apiary, and all the bees, everybody has survived. So
right. And Keith here, he does double bubble, or I guess it's like the what is it called, the stuff that Ian uses on top of the inner cover.
Yeah, so many people have their own ways of doing things. Like Russell was saying about how he has kind of slightly similar but different ways, and whatever works for you.
Right. Len asked you if you had any condensation on the insulation.
I didn't. I had like none. Like I had like none. And the only one I did one test with one of my nukes. I did this with the nuke, but I put a notch in it just to see what would happen. And I didn't necessarily have condensation, but I had a lot of mildew in that area. So that's all I had. But like these things were it was dry in there, just dry, just like you'd want it.
That's a big thing. Like I've noticed in my bee, I have an inner cover. It does have a notch on it, but I don't think it really vents very well. And now this is in the summertime, and I forgot my little wooden blocks that you see me in my videos have, which bring that inner cover up just enough to let air out. And it was getting moldy in there and stuff like that, where it was wet and stuff like that. But I think in the insulation is what is key here. It will not, let it. And then Lynn, she has bee cozies too. Which is that black insulation. It wraps around the hive. I think she had bought a lot of them from another lady who was going out of the business and moving. That actually moved out there with Phil, out there in Texas, someplace.
She doesn't need. Well, if she needs them here, she'd need them in the summer.
No, so I think she left her bees behind.
So the key is to make sure you have more insulation on top than you have on the sides.
Right.
The condensation is going to form at the coldest
highest point.
No, well, it's only at the high point because
it's not insulated.
Yeah, it's going to be at the nearest coldest surface.
Right.
It's like a window in your house. Wherever the moist air hits the cold surface, you're going to get condensation. So if you have insulation above and none on the sides, it's going to hit mostly in those top corners where those intersect. That's where it's going to form. That's why a lot of times in your top box, you'll see that mildew on the ends of your frames because it's forming right there.
Well, she uses the cozy because she doesn't really have any windbreaks and all that. Yeah. And like with me, these hives behind me here, there's nothing there for the wind to be blocked by. And I use some carpet from the ground up, and it just basically shields the hive from the wind from the back end. And it does quite well, I think. Keeps that wind off them.
See what Brian said there, to be in the frame rabbit, because that's the thinnest part of the wood. That's where it's going to be coldest. So that's where it's going to form.
All right. Now I've got some what do you call them? Candy boards that we made several years ago that I used one time. I think they're about 4 inches deep. I'm not sure, maybe 3. And they have like I'll say 1/4 inch luan as a bottom. And I thought about buying a piece of 2-inch insulation. If it's 4 inches, I'd say I'll buy 1.5 inches or 2 inch. Cut it to where it fits right down in there to the bottom board. And then like you have it, Darren, flip them upside down and set them right on top of the box. I have a airspace there, and then put the telly cover on top of it. And I figure, well, maybe I'll, like you say, do a couple of them, see how it works first.
Right. Yeah.
And all that. And see if that doesn't have a different outcome about it and all. The only thing I'm sitting here trying to think, but Heshbeck talked about, like I was telling you about, picking that thing up and it's full of bees. And then he was talking about, I think he had a screen inner cover. Actually, I've got a couple of those. And he had that on, and then he had that insulated board on top of that. And I think what it was, I don't think there was much of an air gap there. Maybe a little bit between the screen and that insulation board. And that way he could pick the insulation board off and then see the bees right there, because they would be hanging on that screen where that hot air is and all. And then I've also heard a couple things about the insulation is that the bees will sit there and chew on it. Well, I know one person last night stated that they painted it. And then I know another person said they put they covered it with Gorilla tape, that slick covering. and all that. So
Wrong button.
yeah, wrong button. So that's the only thing I know about it. You know, like I say, maybe that's what I need to do is get some insulation and just try it out this year.
Let's build a couple of them, Charlie, and see how it goes. I mean, try 3 of them. What do you got? 30 hives? Just
No, I'm downsizing.
okay.
This year, this was my last year as far as selling any advertising to sell nukes. So I'm down to 8 nukes right now and 16 honey hives. I'm at 24. I was at 28, down from 34. And I lost some nukes, and I lost actually one of my production hives right now, which I got 9 nukes. I'm going to take one of the nukes and drop it in that spot come winter time when they're all clustered. And all that. And she's going to try it for sure. But anyway, my main thing now is just to kind of get my honey production back, up a little bit higher, take my nukes as my own personal resource hives, and I am going to get back into my queen rearing. I really enjoyed queen rearing. I haven't been able to do that for the last 2 or 3 years. And because I didn't have the resources in order to make the cell builders and the mating boxes to fill the mating boxes. So I'm going to be using that kind of stuff.
Are you going to do Bill's, was it queen rearing or queen building session? I think he's talking about doing, Bill, what is it, bees all day? He does the Monday night.
Bill down there. Yeah, he said he was going to do that. He's going to have some queen rearing sessions and stuff like that.
I'm thinking about it.
I found queen rearing to be quite fun. The grafting end of it, everybody talks about can't see the larvae and whatever. I mean, that's why we have magnification units. That's why I have these glasses along with my magnification unit, and I can see. And you go to the drugstore or the hardware store and you buy them, 2 little LED flashlights for $5, that are 3 or 4 inches long. And you can sit there and wiggle that light to make that larvae glisten in that jelly, and then go down there with a Chinese grafting tool. The biggest thing that I have trouble with is making sure my cell builder hive is populated strong enough in order to get them to draw themselves out. That's the key.
I think that's my problem too. That's why I'm thinking about, he's talking about doing a class just on building the cell.
I would drive
I would do
3 hours to get to his place. And Bill's got the perfect setup. He's got a building. He's got a classroom. His farm is about, I'll say 3 or 4 miles away where his hives are. So we could do, I'm sure he would have, depending on the time of the year, where he could go out there and show you how to set up a cell builder.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is I talked to some friends of mine here, and where they have, I've always done a queenless cell builder out of a nuke. And my friend Brian said, you got to think, it's a process. You gotta, let's say, take a cell builder, let's say a double nuke, and just fill it full of cat brood that's just about ready to hatch, along with the bees, and then go around. And this is the thing about not selling nukes. I need enough nukes there to go through, and like Bob Walker did, he put a ramp up to the front, shake the bees off on the front on that ramp, and then the nurse bees won't fly, and they'll walk up into that hive, and you'll have 5 frames of brood in there 2 weeks in advance, and then shake another 5 or 10 frames of nurse bees along with them. And by the time the other bees hatch and the nurse bees are in there, you'll have plenty of bees when you drop that cell bar in there. And then make sure that you have, a frame of nectar next to the cell bar and a frame of open pollen, open nectar and pollen. There's the two main things next door to each other. And then I always mix up some, I've got some Man Lake pollen powder, and I put a little bit of sugar water in there and mix it up like a slurry, make it like pancake, thick pancake batter. Take a fork and drizzle that on top of those frames, and it'll just sit there. And then bees will come up there and eat that stuff like a bunch of pigs. And they give them as much food as they could more than what they could ever consume. And they'll make you cells and everything.
Well, I think another problem is, like, for me, is that Chinese grafting tool. And I don't have that modified, I guess, like they say, like they were saying the other night, like chew it down or sand it or whatever you need to do to that.
Right. Take your thumb,
right,
bring that tongue down on your nail. If it bends across your nail real nice and easy.
Mine goes right through right through it. Like that's
right through the wax.
Right. Right.
All right. It's too hard.
Right.
You got to disassemble that thing and take your finger, that's pushing down the reed and back drag it on some sandpaper. And I'm talking like
1,000 grit.
Is it 1,000 grit? I'm almost going to
yeah.
say 800, but 1,000 grit sandpaper. Just keep dragging it backwards, and see when it gets to the point where it'll bend right across, real nice and easy.
The other thing, Darren, is don't pick up a frame that has newer comb. Get the frame where it's darker, where it's been hardened up over a couple seasons.
Now, are you using regular wax
you won't poke
comb or
the bottom.
regular wax comb, or you buy a plastic foundation?
I've used just regular wax.
Yeah, but it's not plastic foundation on it.
No.
You guys are talking about coolering, though.
I don't know, Charlie. I mean, it might have. I have a mix of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You were talking about grafting, right? You said that the Chinese.
Yeah, it goes right down through. So that probably didn't have foundation in it.
Right.
I'm assuming. So.
Yeah,
Well,
the main.
Even if it doesn't, if it's because I've done it off of foundationless, you have to be careful. But I mean, if it's old enough, it will be firm enough to accept that tool. But you have to make sure that, like what Charlie was saying, sand it down, thin it out. Who was it? Joe May.
Yeah.
Joe May has a video, and make up a bunch of those.
That's what I got to do. I'm still in that whole, that's been like my big out of everything that I've done in beekeeping. That the grafting has been probably my biggest issue. Like I get like 1 out of 10. Like 10%.
Keep trying it. Everybody starts out that way. Just keep trying. It gets better and better. Don't get discouraged.
I'm not discouraged, but
yeah, it's fun actually. You'll start thinking, man, I wish it was spring again. I want to graft some more.
Yeah, it's just that tool, when you get it flexible, I just slide it down the cell wall, and it bends right across the base of that cell and scoops up the larvae. And when that tongue goes over and hits the other wall, you just stop, and your egg is on. You haven't flipped your larvae. They talk about that.
Yeah,
and it's on the larvae. The egg is, or actually the larvae's on the jelly, and then you just pick it up out of there, and there it is. And then when you transfer it, just put your tongue kind of flat in the bottom of that cup and start bringing it back in reverse up.
It's reverse, yeah.
And you're pushing the plunger down with your finger here, like holding a ballpoint pen, and the plunger's going down. And by the time that tip gets almost vertical, you're scooting that larvae with that jelly right into the middle of that cup. And then you use I usually get a washcloth, put some water on it, put it in the microwave, heat it up in about 15 seconds, 10 seconds. It's warm. Instead of waiting till warm water heats up, it makes it go faster. And then mark your spot as you're putting in your larvae in each cup. and then that keeps the larvae warm and moist. And then I just put it in my cell bar and turn it, of course, the cell bar straight upside down to keep them in the position. And I put a hand towel over top of it, take it out to the cell builder, put it gently into the cell, and come back in 6 days, and she should be capped. That's when I take them out, and I very lightly brush them off, and then I put them in an incubator.
Darren, do you grab them from the back side of them? Like the back side of a C, the letter C, the curved part. Do you grab them there?
I think I try to grab them whichever way I can get the thing,
No.
the tongue going down in without poking through. That's what's hapappening with me. So
Yeah, they should be like a comma in there, not
Right,
so much a C, but a
Not
comma.
a C, but the round. You want to get that round part. That's where
You want to get them from the
come in from
the,
behind, like I guess that if that's
if
it.
the
Like
curve is like that, you
Correct.
want to come in behind the curve part.
Yeah,
okay.
behind the curve.
All right.
Then they slide off better. Hey, Brad. And all that, and just scoot them off and then take them out there, like I say, in the cell builder.
Mhm.
And they should, be done, capped off in 6 days. Count from the day you put them in. That's when you put them in the cell builder. That's day one. Go back and on the 6th day, they should be capped over. And then I made that homemade incubator out of the top end of a refrigerator with a Inkbird controller and a heat lamp and a fan to keep the air moving, to keep no hot spots, and just put I found a little piece of Tupperware. Actually, it was a meat tray that you buy like sliced ham in from your deli. It's in a like in the grocery store, and washed it out. It'll hold about a Coke bottle full of 16 ounces of water in there, and that'll keep humidity just right. And it works great. And it does well. And now I've gotten to the point where, I just I let them hatch inside. I've got a test tube holder, and I got the hair roller cages, and put them in there.
I'm going to go back to doing cells.
Or you could, or if it's a cap cell, Darren, take, and if you got mating boxes, take the cap cell and you might. I always found the cap cell that cell. I went with JZBZ plastic cell holders.
Mm-hmm.
They're easier to take the cap or the cell off of the cup off of that plastic thing. Whereas the wooden ones, they like to glue them down. You got to take like a little razor knife and kind of cut them off and pop them off of there. But I found the JZBZ bars are better, the plastic bars, and pop them off, put them in a 2-frame mating box, 3-frame mating box, whatever you got. Put them around where there's some brood. So the bees cluster around that cell where the brood's at, especially at night, and keeps everybody warm. And then leave them. And what is it, Todd? After a 6 days to cap, and then there's another 7 or 8 days they'll hatch. Something like that.
Yeah, 7 or 8 days. So that's actually day 9 when they cap from when it was laid. You graft them before the 3rd day.
It'll be 7 days because it's
16.
So
a week later, yeah.
16 days, 7 days later.
Do yourself a favor and go in there before then. Because sometimes, like last year, I had terrible problems with virgins hatching on me early. The hardest part for me is to time the larva. If you get an older larva, it's going to hatch first, and you think you're, right as rain, and you got, 10, 20 cells in there, and that one that's a couple days older that you didn't really notice when you were grafting hatches out and stings out all the rest of your work. Last year, I had one that I had 40 in a cell builder, and I had a virgin that came out and zapped every single one of them. So you have to watch that. It takes practice, though. That's all it is. Just keep doing it. I mean, you're not hurting anything.
No, I mean, I typically, if I need queens, I'll just like move a frame over to, like a frame of eggs or something, and let them just make their own queen.
Yeah.
I mean, that works.
But I mean, if you graft 2 bars full, which is 30 cells.
Yeah.
And if you get 5, what's the big deal? You got 5 more queen cells than you did before.
That's the thing. And you always need a queen,
Always.
Just when you think you don't need a queen, you end up needing a
like
queen.
Mark says, if you want to feed your larvae and feed your queen, your feed your builder.
Yeah.
And all that. If you can feed your hive, if let's say feed ain't coming into the hives real good, that's where you do put some sugar water on there, because that makes that larvae, they'll have extra feed coming into that hive, and they'll put extra jelly in those cells, and that makes it so much more easier to graft out of.
Yeah.
If they only have a dot of jelly for that cell or the egg to lay in, to
larva,
hatch, and the larva's just got a dot in there, it makes it, you'll ruin, it just ain't gonna work for you.
Yeah. So you want to pick the right age and something that's swimming on a lot of royal jelly.
Yeah, and the right age, the best right age is you go in there with your regular glasses with no magnification, and you got your bee suit on, and you pick that frame up, and you see eggs, and then you see jelly, but you can't see anything floating in the jelly, or if you really, really, really squint, you might see a speck in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the right age. If you look at the jelly and you can definitely see larvae floating in the jelly, they're too old.
Yep.
That's too old. You want the stuff that you can't see anything in the jelly. And
so you want to see jelly, but no larvae. You don't want the larvae.
You don't want it. Yeah, you don't want it using the royal jelly as a mattress. You want to you can't even barely notice it.
I mean, if you see royal jelly, they don't put jelly in a cell unless there's a larvae there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. But if you look at the jelly and you can't see anything laying on the jelly, that there's a larvae there. You can't see. It's just this side of microscopic. It's at the right age level, which is at 12 hours, and you'll scoop it out. But if you look in that jelly and you can see a comma in there or a C, the jelly's looking like a C, or the larvae's looking like a C, the shape of a C, or it's getting close to a C, it's too old.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what you're doing, is picking up what you can see. You don't want what you can see, what you can't see.
Well, I got magnification that don't take
Do
it.
You have magnification?
Don't take it personally, Philip. But I got, when I'm wearing my magnification, I might have your glare on my lenses. I mean, I flip these things down, then I flip another one down, I flip it. It's I don't know. It's like something I got off of.
Well, with mine, I got that helmet, and it's got that little jewel case with all the different powers in there. Now that's something you'll have to kind of play with your eyes and your glasses. Right. If you put your glasses on, like you have, like these glasses here are my computer glasses. These are, normally I'll call them bifocals. The bottom part for reading, that's what these glasses are. And these glasses suit I can see my screen here way better. I don't have to look down in order to read stuff. And I put the magnification on top of these. For me, it's a 1.5 magnification. And that you'll have to play with that. You'll have to see, can I see clearer with this one? And then you take that one off and you stick another one up on that helmet. And the helmet's got that little piddly light on top. And that's just what it is. It's a piddly light. Get yourself an LED flashlight from the grocery or from the hardware store or Tractor Supply or wherever you can find them. I find them in like Walgreens or something like that. Get 2 for $5, or something like that.
Yeah. DC,
and that way you can take that light and go back and forth and shine in that hole, and you'll get it right on an angle where it kind of glistens off of that white jelly, and it'll really make the larvae kind of stand out.
DC said about jeweler's. Look what he said. Jeweler's
Yeah,
glasses.
yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah,
Those
it
are
has like
great.
different lenses that you can flip down. It has lights on it, so it was.
Well,
cheap.
I don't have. I have the basic one where it's just it flips down, but it's nice for me because it'll go over my glasses. So I have my glasses and the magnifier, so I can really zoom in. The bad thing about that, though, I'm going to caution you, is when you're looking at that frame and you start zeroing in with your grafting tool, the depth perception's a little off for a little bit, and you start poking the frame, and you make a mess.
Objects in mirror are closer than they appear, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a brain thing. Your brain would be like fighting you, like, no, you got to keep lower, but
yeah,
you'll get it.
Yeah, I know.
You know what? So for the beginners, that people that are starting to learn to graft, I would suggest using an incubator, because then you don't have to worry about virgins attacking or hatching early and killing off all your work.
Right.
You get in there like I think it's day 12, something like that, day 13, not past there. And I always go from when the egg is laid. So from grafting at, what is that, Charlie? The day 10 or so.
Yeah, something like. See, that confuses me.
And
I mean, I'm not looking. You can't. That's what they told me when I went down here at Knoxville, Tennessee, years ago. Try to time it out. You see the egg will come back in so many days, which is 3 days, and it'll be just right. Well, when I got back in 3 days, them eggs were older than what you thought they were, and the larvae was just too old.
You can read the comb though. So you know how the queen lays in a pattern, right? The circle gets bigger and bigger. So you find those eggs that are sticking straight up that you could barely see at the day she lays them. Day 2, they start kind of leaning sideways. Day 3, they're laying down. By then, it's you could tell the age of the egg that way.
Right.
So then you just kind of backtrack on the comb until you run into royal jelly and all that.
Start at the top and just kind of like
correct, or the bottom or the sides. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But so what I did at the beginning when I started doing this was that's how I would graft. I would use an incubator. Then I would gently, peel off those queen cells off the grafting bar, and I would put them in a hair roller cage. The JZBC cups will fit right over those plastic. One end is opened up. The other end has a trap door that you could snap back in. I'll be right back. I'm going to get them. Hard to describe, but I'll be right back.
But and I like Mark's talking about here, and Brian, day 4 is day 1, and day 16 is day 12, and all that. And the main thing of it is, a lot of folks will say, well, I always took them out of the incubator 2 days prior than what the mathematics said. If it was I took them out at day 14, and they were hatching 2 days. That way I knew that they weren't going to hatch on me in the incubator. Then they got to the point where I started just taking the virgins out of the incubator and then walking them into the 2-frame mating box. And that seemed to work for me too. I had some people say they didn't have any luck with that. Well, I seem to have pretty good luck with that and all.
So
but
if they do hatch in an incubator, how do you, at that point, how do you feed them? Because you got to feed them the queens.
Yeah, I take some crystallized honey with my finger or whatever and just put a little dab on that hair roller cage right down at the bottom, just a little bit. That's
All
what I got.
So it has a bottom,
Yeah, I got those.
snaps in. The JZBZ cup fits right on top. It doesn't fall through. So the one thing though that I found over the years doing it that way is some of the queens will actually push they'll wedge themselves in there and push this off. So
Do they?
when I put them in, I just take a little piece of tape and I go right over.
Right.
That's it.
I always wondered that if they could actually, if a queen has enough strength.
Yeah, and if the cup happens to have a little bit of wax or something there, just kind of try to use the wax as sort of like glue.
Right.
Yeah.
But if when it's closed within a day or so, a day and a half of they suspect them to hatch, because like Todd says, you can't time it that close unless you have a timing box to start out with. And we're not going to get into all that.
Yeah.
And so I go down there in the mornings, and check them, or in the evenings and check them. And maybe, with me, I work at home, so I check them at noontime. And if they're virgins and I don't really have time during the middle of the day, I'll put a little bit of honey there at the bottom.
Yeah.
You don't want them to get any honey on themselves as far as their wings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then another thing is take that cocoon out of there, take it up there and tear off that cocoon, because they'll try to go back up there. And if you fed them right, there's always a little bit of jelly left in that little dimple that's in that cup. And they'll try to go up there and eat that, and they'll get stuck in there.
I should have brought the little thing that I made up with this, but what it is, just maybe like a 1/4-inch board that, it's 1/4-inch thick. It's about 2 inches wide. And I take a drill bit and I drill about the size of this. And so I'll do like 10 or 12 across the stick. And then when I had them in the incubator and I want them standing up. So I would shove these things in those holes, and I'd have a whole bunch that I could sit on the bottom of the incubator. And it just made things easier. And then you have to have a sponge in there with some water.
Right. That's just for the humidity.
Yeah.
What's the temperature? Like 98, 97?
I think I had mine set at 96.
96.
And see, that's another thing. You could turn it up a degree or two, and you could speed up the process. You could turn it down a degree or two, and you could slow them down. So it's a you got to fine tune it to what you want to do.
Yeah, it's 93 degrees DC, and you got to have moisture in there, and it does affect how fast they come out and stuff like that. Now, Matt or Tom, how do you guys put water in the situation where they have water to drink? You're just rubbing it on the outside of the cage where it has
what I do.
tension.
Yeah. I do one side water, one side honey. They'll figure it out. And see, what's nice about these, I don't know if you can see it, but see those little slots around the rim of the cap? Yeah. Those are like little troughs. So if you do it right, if you get enough water on your finger and you put it, through those holes, it'll drip down into those little troughs.
Okay.
And they'll hold there and they could drink out of that. But water is important. You can't just give them honey and call it good. They need water too. And you can't keep them in there very long either.
Yeah, Tom and Lissa said they rub it like they do. You rub it, the drop of water on the side of the cage.
Yeah, twice a day.
Yeah, that's like, I try to go, like I say, put a little bit of honey on there, put some water on there, but there was another guy that was in a chat I was in and talked about leaving them in the incubator for 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, as soon as they hatch, I'm putting them in a darn
Yeah.
hive
Yeah.
as quick as possible. And all.
That's, and you need to count how many cells that you're putting into the incubator. If you're putting them in when they're day 12, they've got 4 days or so left in there, and you can make up, let's say you have 10 cells. They're going to come out of your incubator in 4 days. Well, you get out there and make a bunch of you make 10 splits or queenless hives.
Right.
And you drop. Well, what I do, you could either drop a cell in there or you let them hatch, and then it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other, however way you want to do it. I've always, and Brad has talked about, Brad up in Canada has talked about letting virgins up on the top bars and let them walk in and go in. I just do it by the front door and let them crawl right in. If they've been queenless for 3-4 days, they'll accept a queen most of the time.
Yeah, make sure you have no voluntary cells and stuff in there. Now, Tom, how do you were saying putting attendants in? Are you putting the attendants in when they're inside the incubator, or are you putting them in a cage and then letting them go into the mating boxes?
The other thing with the incubator is, at least the ones I've seen at Tractor Supply, they just have 2 little plastic windows on top. And what I do is I cut out a piece of cardboard, to match that little window, whatever it is. If there's 2 of them, and I cover it because I want it darker in there. I don't need light going in there. I just want them, chill out in the dark. Who should be on here talking about this is Mark Miller.
Yeah. Where are you, Mark? I do have an incubator. I bought one of those styrofoam egg incubators. I think I paid like 50, 60 bucks, because DC was just talking about that, but you don't need to spend a lot of money on.
No. Go to Tractor Supply and get the styrofoam one, and you're good to go. There's all kinds of fancy ones out there. You don't need them.
Right. But let's see, I was going to tell you something else. I started using an incubator because what I found was if you leave the cells on the cell bar in the cell builder for those extended 6 to 7 days past where they capped, then you got the 2 cells hanging down like that. In between the 2 cells, they'll put webbing in there, burr comb, or webbing as I call it. What a pain. Then you got to get your X-Acto knife out. It's super sharp, and sit there tediously saw that webbing off so you don't bust the darn cocoon open, and then still you might bust it, and there goes your beautiful queen out the door that you've been working hard for. So I had that problem once or twice. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. We're going to a incubator.
You see what Mark said?
Yeah, Mark's not going to come on. We're educating him, I guess.
He's probably busy spinning honey right now anyway.
He feels outclassed.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, Mark. But yeah, it's fun. You know what? I always look like right now I'm already thinking about spring, but talking about grafting and stuff. That's my favorite part, It's so much fun. But Darren, when you do it more and more, it gets easier and easier. That's all I can say.
Do you do them, Philip? Do you graft?
I don't. That's why I'm sitting here very quietly listening.
Now, DC's got a question. I'm not quite sure what he means. It means if you do a few less, so there's more space.
Oh, he's talking about the webbing. You could do that if you wanted to. You could have them. You could do
space farther apart, maybe.
Yeah, so they don't web as easily. That would the only problem with that is if you're looking for quantity, you're going to have to do a few rounds of grafting. But generally, if you put them, space them right, and pay attention, like Charlie said, if you don't pay attention to the timing, they're going to web them up. But if you space them right and you get in there on time, everything should be fine.
Yeah. And then I like to say, to me, I mean, what you can go to Tractor Supply for what, $40-50 for an incubator?
Yeah.
And set it up at 93 degrees and put yourself a little cup of water in there. And I think it has fans, right?
It has, yeah. They have a little fan unit. Now, when I said 96, 96 on my unit, because it's not accurate. So you need to find out whatever temperature it's reading, is that actually the temperature it's doing?
You got to put yourself a thermometer then.
Correct. You put that in there, and I found out that mine was off a little. So that's why I say 96. I have a piece of tape on there, and I wrote numbers down with a Sharpie, so I remind myself every year.
Now you're talking about like holding
the temperature. So
yeah, now I was going to talk about you were with your JZ or your cages in there, hold them standing straight up. I got this off from what's his name out there at Duck River. There is a 30 millimeter test tube holder. You get 3 of them for about $10 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And they'll hold a dozen or more of those cages you got. You got to turn that little tab where the lid hooks onto in one of the corners to get it to go down in there. But it's all open. It lets air get around it and everything else. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Now, all right. Now I got to go get the other thing that you're talking about. I'll be right back.
I'll tell you. I'll get the one thing I got.
I guess it's just us, huh? Yeah. All I do to raise the few queens that I raised, Darren, is I just take my colony, which is strong, and take the queen out, let them make cells, and I come back in and cut them out.
That's exactly what I do. That's the easiest way. And there's so many methods of doing it, really. Like there's a lot of different methods, like the alley method, and just different ways that they're, some of those beekeepers were doing beekeepers in the early days. They come up with different methods. They all work. You don't necessarily have to graft.
Yeah, I don't use very much plastic foundation, so it's real easy to cut out cells.
Right.
If you don't have plastic, I think you can still do it. It's just much more difficult.
All right. So this is what I did. I just took a piece of wood. This one's a little thicker than a quarter. It's a 1/2 inch. And you just do this, and then put them in each hole. So I think this is 16, which is what the bars hold cup-wise. And then you just keep going across the whole, the whole bar or the whole piece of wood. And I have another one. I have a couple of these. And that's it. And, you put the cell in there and off to the races. So watch, I'll fill it all up. And I just keep a whole bunch of these in a coffee can. Go to Daydan and buy a bag of them, or they're online everywhere.
Well, that can be the goal for next year, right? Like to become a good at grafting queens. Like it has been my goal for the past 3 years. So I might as well carry it on into 2020.
Yeah, don't be scared to try it. It's hard at first.
I try it. Trust me, I'm not afraid to try it.
But see, that's what I end up with. So this is one bar from my grafting bar. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, there's only 12 on here. But anyway, that's what I do.
Yeah, I really think it's my cell builder. I think that's where my problem is.
That was my problem in the beginning, and I really watched Bob Binney's cell builder video over and over and over.
You know what, though? Everybody who does a YouTube video on how to do a cell builder, they never come back and like to show the results of the cell builder. You know what I mean? Like they say, well, this is how you do it, but they never do like a follow-up video on it. So it makes me wonder if I'm not talking about Bob Binney because I know he knows what he's doing, but like a lot of the other ones, I wonder, like, do they really know how to build a cell builder? Like, is it really working for them?
Yeah, Bob's video. You have to watch it a couple of times, but it makes sense after a while. And when you start doing it, it's really easy.
And I think he uses that double screen divider method too, doesn't he? Does he do that like that?
Yeah, he uses for splits and stuff.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of splits, but I think that he might. Doesn't he?
He uses it for a cell builder too. Yeah.
That's in the middle. Yeah.
He puts his queen in the top, I think.
Queen in the top, then you put the double screen divider in the middle, and then
double screen board.
Yeah, because he says all the bees, he turns it around, the top around, face backwards.
The biggest thing to remember is you need to make sure there's a ton of young bees in the bottom, bunch of nurse bees, because those are the ones that are going to be, feeding and getting the cells going. And then when you reverse it, you go the queen on top, you put her on the bottom, then you take an excluder, you put that on top of that box, then you put the bottom box on the top, and then they'll come up and finish it.
Yeah.
So, or you could have another hive that you want to finish it. So,
right. I'm gonna put myself on the thing. Now here's what I got is all it is. It's 30 millimeter holes, and the you see that right on the end of my finger there? That's that little latch part of the lid. And you can't go. Let's see if I can get this to show. It won't. That you got to go to the corner with that little thing, and it'll fit right down in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 21 holes here that you can put in a 21 queens in there.
Yeah.
And it's ventilated on the bottom. You get 3 of them for $13, and they're flat. You have these ears up on the side here. You just bend them up and snap them. Snap this whole thing together.
Where'd you get that?
And I used to have a wooden block, and all that stuff. And this here is nice and light. It's airy. Stick it in the incubator, and you're done.
Where'd you get that at, Charlie?
Amazon, of course. Let me see if I can. Let's see. See if I can get that in the chat area there. I don't know how you're supposed to.
You know those big car washing sponges that kind of looks like an 8. It's like the big thick sponges. I use those. I fill them up with water, and then I just put them right on the inside of the incubator. The incubator has a plastic tray that's full of holes, like what the bottom of Charlie's holder looked like there. And if there's water, it drips down, and it's able to be caught down at the bottom. But it keeps. One of those car sponges will hold enough water for a few days, but you do have to go back and check on them.
Oh, there's a link there. It does take you to it. And all. You guys can check it out. Come on.
Yeah, and Brad says, once you get good at grafting, you'll see that it's really the easiest way to raise queens. And that's absolutely correct. Except,
Well, I
you have
think
a-
once you get good at it, it's probably the most reliable.
oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. It just
What are you doing, Charlie? You still working
oh,
on
I don't know. I clicked the wrong doggone button and
You know,
trying to get back into Amazon and
it
here we
worked
go.
for
you
me.
know,
Coco Moco Packs, is that how you pronounce that?
the Brad was saying there's other ways to raise queens, and that's true. One thing that I do is I use a fat bee-man method where he takes a 1/8-inch hardware cloth and he cuts out a little square, and you take a PVC tube or something and you push it through a hole in a 2x4. I can't remember all the measurements, but what it ends up being is a cage. And so if you have a hive that, you know, the queen swarmed or half the colony swarmed or even the queen's gone, whatever, but you have a bunch of queen cells, you can isolate that queen on the comb. You push that in, make sure that you have a good enough depth in with the wire into the wax, and then when she hatches out, they'll feed her through the hardware cloth. And I had a couple years ago, I did a split, and I thought that I took the queen away from the hive or away with the split, and I didn't. And so I had, well, anyway, it ended up where that box of bees made 27 queen cells, and I used quite a few of them, and they're actually good. But that's another way you can do it too.
Yeah. That Dave Cushman, is it Dave Cushman? His website has like 8 or 10 different types of like styles of like raising queens, but they're all very similar except for like the grafting method. That's like the one that kind of stands out. But most of them just have to do with just like taking eggs and you know, transferring eggs and
Yeah,
you know, just let the bees, you know, raise their own queen.
yeah.
All right. Hey, Charlie, I'm gonna have to get off of here.
Yeah, well, it's getting close to quitting time too at 10:30 here. Roy wants to know whatever happened to Fat B Man. I think Fat B Man just got old and not able to do anything anymore. I'm not sure.
See you, Philip.
Thanks for coming on, Philip.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
Someone
that,
said he was ill or something a while back, but I guess he's better.
I don't know.
He hadn't made videos in a long time.
He was my main go-to guy when I first started beekeeping.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I started out. I found him, and I thought I was where I first seen some of the stream team there working with that guy.
Yeah,
and all.
And I used to watch JC's Bees, and I didn't even realize that I was just JC's Bees was just getting started when I got started. So I didn't really even realize that. Like I was like watching him, you know, and what he was doing. But
yeah, I watched him too. He took, what was it, a copper tubing, and it used that as like a cell punch and
right,
that kind of stuff like that, and came up with all them different things. And good night, Catherine. And
he published his book.
Yeah, he got some kind of a beekeeper's beginning book and everything, but you know, his videos have really fall off the last 2 years, and he's kind of still at the sort of the beginner level education part of it. And
right, yeah,
I just kind of, you know, unsubscribed from him too, and all. I think, well, like you say, like everybody's here, Bob Benny's kind of like my go-to guy when it comes to, you know, at our level of beekeeping and everything like that.
Bob and Ian.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ian, I have to take what he's doing and kind of figure out how to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my thing with Ian. Like I think he's so beyond me. Like
commercial, like he's a big commercial beekeeper. I got 15 hives.
Well, he has,
I don't
I'll
know
say
how to-
different, you can use some of his techniques on how to do things. And another thing, I watched Brad and Ian over the last year, and you got to remember where they live at. It's different. Their season is very compressed, and they respond to things differently than what we do, because we have a little bit more time to do things with and stuff like that. It's just that kind of a thing and all that. So, but I don't know. It's just that's kind of the way it is. Well, guys, it's 10:30 almost, within a couple minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and shut the chat down. Thanks for everybody stopping in. Hopefully some folks got some good information tonight. And we'll see y'all next Friday. And what's this? This Carl saying, I'm thankful for all the YouTube personalities, good and bad. Just weed through it. All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut the chat down, everyone. We'll see y'all next week, same time, 8:30 or 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Heidi ho.
See y'all.